All right, so this is a great exercise for mobilizing the thoracic spine, which is huge for improving overhead position and shoulder mechanics. So after working on this, Phil Roy soon PB'd his jerk. So it's not just a silly mobility exercise. It doesn't carry over to sport or lifting or performance. And we're going to go through the key things for setup, which help you get the most out of this and really achieve the training stimulus in the thoracic spine. So you'll notice he is foot elevated on a bench. You can use a box as well, and quite long stance. So what this does is it keeps the pelvis fixed in position and doesn't allow motion to come from the hips. If we were just stood up with no stagger, then whenever he side bends, the hips could shift to the side, and that wouldn't require as much side bend from the spine. And whenever he rotated, the pelvis would rotate, which means there's no actual rotation between the vertebrae required. Like if you turn with your sternum and your belt buckle together, then actually there's no rotation between the vertebrae. Whereas if we keep the belt buckle fixed, so this doesn't move, and then we turn, now we're getting rotation through the vertebrae. So that's the why behind the setup. We're trying to stay fixed through here. And we've got his pelvis rotating right, but we've also got his sternum rotating right. So we call this an in-sync rotation. So the pelvis and the shoulder girdle are turned together. If we were turning him to the left, that would be out of sync. So we've got the pelvis turning right and the shoulders or the sternum pointing left. This creates more twist and is more demanding because we're creating more length through the muscles of the trunk, and the spine is already sort of stretched like a towel being wrung out. So because we're working on his lateral flexion, so his ability to side bend, we want to make it as easy as possible to side bend. So actually keeping things in sync to focus on the frontal plane, to focus on the side bend first, and then we'll eventually ask him to side bend out of sync as well, which for him will be more demanding. So from this position, we've got the pelvis turned right, we've got the shoulders turned right, and he's bracing on this squat rack here. You can use a rig, you can use a door frame, anything that's relatively stable. All we're doing is keeping him locked and square so that he can focus on the pure side bend. From here, I will usually cue right ear to right shoulder to create almost like a sideways Jefferson curl, one vertebrae at a time, side bending down the thoracic spine, because previously he kind of moved as one unit. The thoracic spine didn't have any articulation between the vertebrae, which is what we ideally want to maximize muscle recruitment. So you see how he's sort of leading with the head. You can also add a reach with the hand. You can load this with a dumbbell if you want to increase the loading. But the key thing is not to force this movement, almost just to allow it to happen. You might get a nice stretch on the left side of the neck into the traps, and you might get a stretch through the opposite side, lat and obliques as well. That's all good. As we get more articulation through the spine, those things should lengthen, and that's one of the benefits of this exercise. And that's partly why it helps the overhead position, is that the better quality our side bend, the better we're able to load our lateral chain, which includes lats and obliques, which are pivotal for any overhead movements. So the smallest tweak can make the biggest difference for these setups. So a little bit more or less rotation, changing the reach from being straight down to slightly out to the side, have a little play with it. And what we're looking for is curvature through the thoracic spine. So you can see he's still fairly straight here, but with a few more reps, it starts to articulate better and we get more of a C shape through the spine. So that's what we're working towards. You won't, if you have a stiff thoracic spine, it's not going to happen straight away, but with time, with reps, and really slowing things down, taking a nice breath and falling into that position using the weight of your head, you will make big changes to the way your thoracic spine moves, which will make big changes to your overhead press mechanics as well. But give it a go, guys, and let me know how you get on.